You calm down, or I'll throw you off a building in New York and make it look like a suicide. Whoa! Who said that? Calm down, please. Just calm it. Guess I wanted to talk to you guys about my dad. Or your dad. Your parents. I think we judge them too harshly. It's sometimes people, you almost feel like you're smarter than your parents because they still go to the Kingdom Hall, but I have to remind you that when our parents were young, the prophecies, there was still a chance they could come true. When you think about it. 1975 was still, maybe it was going to be Armageddon. I don't know. The 1914 generation thing had not fallen through. Those prophecies were still up in the air. It was a different time. And the world was different, too. My dad was a Jehovah's Witness elder for 4 decades. Can you imagine it? My dad was an elder by the age of 20, believe it or not. See, he was in prison for the neutrality issue during Vietnam. And in prison, even though they're behind bars, the preaching work continued. And they formed congregations. And since the brothers who were in the jails were under the age of 25, you had congregations of teenagers. And my dad was one of the elders. They had congregation meetings where they would do book studies, but also they went from cell to cell working their territory. Just like Jehovah's Witnesses on the outside were going door to door. And my dad didn't belong in jail. Jails are for criminals. My dad was a pacifist, as were many other JWs. Now, you probably know Jehovah's Witnesses that are violent, even animalistic, but I believe there was a time when most Jehovah's Witnesses were as innocent as they say, and they were persecuted for the neutrality issue. And not the way that Jehovah's Witnesses today say that they're persecuted. You've been around Jehovah's Witnesses, they're always talking about persecution, but I gotta tell you, I just don't see it. I don't think it's real anymore. I mean, society has changed. People don't care about what religion you are. Now back in the 80s or whatever, kids were getting picked on in school for their religion. People in their jobs were getting picked on for being Jehovah's Witnesses. But in the 60s and 70s, Jehovah's Witnesses were people who were getting attacked for their religious beliefs. It's strange to think about now that Jehovah's Witnesses, their main thing is attacking others and persecuting them. But one day, a group of flag wavers pulled up in front of my parents' house, and my dad told my mom to go inside. It was guys he had went to high school with, and they came to beat him up. I know, it sounds unreal, but during Vietnam, people were doing nutty things. Like the whole country was just going berserk. And these guys, they had baseball bats, and my dad was not a small man, by the way, but he did not resist them at all or fight back because he was a Christian. And it wasn't just words. Now you will hear and see Christians or people who say they are today talking about turning the other cheek, and it's all fine, but do you ever think, is it real? But I'm telling you, my dad, at any point a stranger could have walked up to my dad at any time and slapped him across the face. And I know my dad. You could slap my dad in his face, and he would look down at the ground and go just continue about his Jehovah's Witness business. That's how serious of a Jehovah's Witness he was. And, you know, how many elders do you think today could... I want you to do an experiment. Go to your local Kingdom Hall, walk up to an elder and strike him in the face. And see if you can do it up to 77 times before... No, I'm joking. Don't do that. I'm joking. Don't do that. But I think you get my point. If you walked up to any given elder today and slapped them in the face, do you think they wouldn't punch you in your mouth? Yeah, I think you get my drift. But Jehovah's Witnesses, they aren't the same as they used to be. They're hostile. Even on TV, have you seen some of these videos on YouTube? The PR people that Jehovah's Witnesses have, when they're talking to TV reporters or people that want to interview them, they're not even nice to them. They're openly hostile. Jehovah's Witnesses have turned into angry, almost mean people. I've never seen anything like it. But these good old boys had come to my parents' house to beat up my dad. And one of them held the door shut so that my mom couldn't get out. But two of the other ones, held my dad's arm so that the other one could punch him. But it wasn't even necessary. Like I told you, my dad would have stood there and let the guy punch him. But it was rough. These guys, one of the guys was just holding a baseball bat and just jabbing my dad in the face. And they spent about 5 minutes working him over. And when they left, my mom ran out and my dad was beat up really bad. And she wanted to put him in the car and take him to the hospital. But my dad wouldn't go because he didn't want to get the men in trouble. He knew if he went to the hospital, those men would get arrested. And my dad, he did... Do you remember when Jesus was getting tortured and killed, and he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do"? My dad viewed the rednecks that had attacked him in the same way, that he wasn't angry at them. He didn't blame them for what they'd done because he felt that they had been educated by Satan's world. They had been born into Satan's darkness, and the reason they had done the bad thing they did was because they hadn't learned the truth yet. And my dad didn't want to get those men in trouble because he hoped that one day he would be able to knock on their doors and bring them the good news. Said that? Calm down, please. Just calm it. Guess I wanted to talk to you guys about my dad. Or your dad. Your parents. I think we judge them too. calm down, or I'll throw you off a building in New York and make it look like a suicide. Whoa! Too harshly. It's sometimes people, you almost feel like you're smarter than your parents because they still go to the Kingdom Hall, but I have to remind you that when our parents were young, the prophecies, there was still a chance they could come true. When you think about it, 1975 was still, maybe it was going to be Armageddon. I don't know. The 1914 generation thing had not fallen through. Those prophecies